Hello, and welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on Soul Livity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to feel the love, peace, and happiness that exists within you? Then the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, my guests and I explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help realign you with a happiness within you. The happiness principle for today's show is taking care of your physical self. On the show, we talk about the ways we connect with and nurture all aspects of ourself, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. And as spiritual beings having a human experience, it's important that we take care of the vessel, our body, that provides the learning experience for our soul. I like to think of my body as my temple, and as such, I treat it that way. When I began to love myself, I began to look at the ways I was demonstrating that love to all parts of myself. And I started asking myself the questions, was I treating my body in loving ways? Was I honoring and respecting my body? Was I giving my body the reverence it deserved for all the amazing things it does for me every day? Although my body may not be perfect in society's eyes, my body can do many things that some people's can't. My body is healthy and it works to heal itself every day to keep me strong. It carries me from place to place with ease. It moves and stretches, and it helps me to accomplish all the things I want to do every day. I realize that this is the only body I'm going to have, and it's about time I began taking care of it the way it deserves. It was time that I began giving back to my body the way it gives to me every day. Loving myself meant that I needed to show myself the self-care I deserved, because the truth is, no one is going to take care of you if you don't. As a mother, we're conditioned to believe that a good mom puts her family's needs before her own. However, what happens is we're often going around on empty, never having the time to care for ourselves the way we need to. But how can we be our optimum self and be who we need to be for others if we don't put the oxygen mask on ourselves first? We can't. In fact, in order for us to be the best mom, wife, partner, employee, or whoever we need to be, our cup needs to be overflowing so that we're never going around depleted. When we're at our best, we're more adept at doing all the things we need to do and doing it with a smile and with a loving and caring heart. Self-care means that we tune into our body to understand how and what it is communicating to us. Are your shoulders tight? Is your neck sore? Is your mind clear and level-headed? Are you less patient and feel yourself getting frustrated more easily? These are all examples of ways that our body is talking to us and is telling us what it needs. For me, when I start to feel this way, I know that I need to go for a massage, I need to visit my chiropractor, I need to get more sleep, and I need to meditate. Think about the ways your body is communicating with you. What is it saying? What is it telling you it needs? Do you need to go to the doctors? Do you need to take that long hot bath? Do you need to go for a walk? Do you need to move your body more? Loving our bodies mean that we don't pollute our temple with toxins. We eat healthy and nutritious foods rather than processed and fast foods. We limit the amount of alcohol we drink and avoid drugs. It means we make time for activities that energize us and fuel our creativity, where we can feel the excitement and pleasure throughout our body, whether that be painting, cooking, writing, building, skiing, playing with our kids or pets, or whatever that is for you. when we take care of our physical self, other aspects of ourselves benefit too. So our whole self wins when we make time to engage in the small pleasures and that show ourselves the love we deserve. When we feel good physically, we are more apt to feel happier with ourselves and how we show up in our lives. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my first guest on the show. She holds a PhD in trichology, cosmetology, clinical therapy, and biblical psychology. Dr. Nadine Wong, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Teresa. Thank you for having me.
Nadine, can you tell us a little bit about the work you do with your patients?
Oh, wow. The concept of my patient is all about causation. So the overall work is putting all the connections together in terms of how the body sends and receives information. Actually, I love to say this. The symptomology of your body is the language that basically creates a conversation for us to get to a curative level.
Mhm. So, for those of us that may not be familiar with trichology, what is that?
Trichology is a scientific study of hair and scalp and their disorder. So basically, your hair is sharing all the interconnectivity of the symptomology from within, outer, that manifests in something as simple as alopecia or cicatricia, which is just scarring of the scalp, or persons who tend to like to suck their thumb and pull on their hair. So it covers all the psychological manifestation of disorders that are happening from within that manifests on the scalp.
Hmm. And is this a very popular, let's say, methodology? Because I haven't really, for me, it doesn't sound like it's something that there are a lot of doctors that are doing this work.
No, it's in its own niche. It is. It's under the umbrella of what we call natural remedy or natural medicine, because simply, well, in my practice, we simply just use minerals, which we're a product of minerals, and basically, minerals are held in the hair, and minerals are what we know as charges. You know, positive and negative charges. And if when the charges are at what we call at a balance, basically the cycle of life grows and the charges are in everything in our cells, and we're a lump of cells. So we basically get the information from the body itself, and then from that we just create the curative. So it has been around, but it's more so in the category of natural remedies.
Hmm. Now, Nadine, I wanted you to be a guest on the show today because you are skilled in so many different areas with having a doctorate
Sure.
in different disciplines. And that I wanted to talk to you about how important it is for us to all aspects of ourselves to be in alignment, that our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. And when we are in alignment, we feel pretty good, that there's a nice flow to our life. We're feeling happy, things are working out. However, when things are then not in alignment, and that it can show up in the physical body, that probably by the time people come and see you, that they are seeing physical manifestations of maybe the other aspects that are not in alignment. So let's say their mental and emotional and spiritual self, that maybe those aspects are also communicating to them, and they've been communicating for a while, but we just don't listen to it. We let it go. And then
Mhm.
eventually we end up having physical symptoms that's demonstrating to us that we're not in alignment. And because of all of your expertise, I know that you are one of those practitioners that brings all of that wholeness and wellness into what you do with your clients. And so would you say that that in fact is the case, that when somebody, by the time they come and see you and they're having physical symptoms, that there's often other elements of ourselves that we're not in touch with, let's say, or out of alignment?
Oh, for sure. Um, so one of the key things about my practice, we do what is known as a hair mineral analysis. And it comes back to the very same thing about charges. So the minerals are held within our hair. We basically liquefy that. And what we're looking for is the blueprint about your body. We're looking at, or it has the ability to identify what was, what is, and what is about to happen. So when you talk about out of alignment, there are lots of underground symptomology that has occurred, a particular trauma. And this information, we can go way back up to 20 years. If the mother was consuming anything in great excess, we can definitely trace it back. So it's a trace on a trace level basis. So when a person comes in and they're okay, they come in, say, for example, alopecia, or it could just be they need to balance their health, or it could be for diabetes or men, erectile dysfunction, just whatever it's out of source. When we tend to look at it, this underlinement has been occurring for many, 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 many times or many years. When you've gone through a particular trauma and have not got to the place of unresolved, that stores in the body and that
Mhm.
manifests or that gives charges, and out of that there's symptomology from a medical in the medical community is grouping that is identified with a name. But from in the area that I come from, in terms of the natural aspect of health, what we're looking for is the causation. So we're going to, in terms of, let's hear the language of what your body is indicating. And then from that, we just basically utilize minerals to offset minerals that are at a deficiency area. And as a result of that, that's how we get to optimum health. It's your body telling basically what it needs. It's not something that's going to fall out
Mhm.
of the sky. So, for example, we talk about the sky, we talk about elements, the things that we don't see. There's a key error when it comes to health that kind of throw persons off that you're not aware of, and it's something that is called imponderables. So we see the moon, we see the sun, we see all these different things that generates a lot more energy than the norm. And believe it or not, there's some people that it creates a shift of sparks or mineral absorption. And as a result of that, it manifests in behavior. And behavior, you become erratic. Some people become more centralized. Some people, it's a lack of. Some people, it's like, why is my skin itching more? Why do I desire sweet more? Why do I desire alcohol more? Why can't I rest, or am I resting too much? So the elements, the unknown is very much a part of curative as well as the very things that we see.
Mhm. And what I love about what you're saying is that you try to get to that cause component. That I know that when I
Mhm.
go to the doctors, it's so much about just band-aiding the treatment or the
Yeah,
issue, right? You go
temporary
in and
fix. Right.
what can I help you with? And then it's a quick, okay, here. But she doesn't. So for example, I was anemic for a long time. And there was and then I was
Mhm.
going into surgery, and that doctor said to me, well, why are you anemic? And I'm like, I don't know. I've just been told to take iron supplements, but nobody has asked me why am I anemic or tried to figure out why I was anemic. Like why was it
Right.
why I was at that point where my body wasn't absorbing the iron that I was even had taking in the supplements, because at that point I was taking different types of supplements and my body still wasn't absorbing it. So why was that?
Mhm.
And then I know that with
Mhm.
the work that I was doing, that the underlying spiritual component to my anemia
Mhm.
was that I wasn't loving myself the way that
There
I
you go.
needed to. And that anemia
Mhm.
is a blood issue, and blood very tied to love. And that I
Mhm.
wasn't loving myself at that point, that I had just had my second child. My body didn't look the way it did before. And especially after it was my second. And I was so busy and not sleeping and not loving my spending. There was no self care at all at that point. So it all, when
Mhm.
I really started to look, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, that it really was a time in my life that I wasn't loving myself the way that I needed to. And then it was showing up in that way. So I think
Mhm.
that's what's so fascinating about like the work that you do with your clients, is trying to piece all those little
That's
components
right.
together to figure out
Mhm.
why is there this imbalance, like that's showing up in the hair with the minerals and everything.
The focus is what went wrong, and not just asking you what is wrong. Something went wrong. There is a break, there is a shift. We call it a trauma, because that's really what the shift is. The trauma is all about. It's creating a shift, and then the body stores it. The first line of defense mechanism is absorption. So it doesn't matter how expensive the product is or thereabout. If the body is not absorbing, chances are your autoimmune system becomes, in a deficiency area or different deficiency place. So we got to find out. And if the minerals are trapped or they're not generating the sufficient amount of what we call charges, you're going to have a symptomology associated with a variety of disease and disorders for sure.
So can you give us some examples with some of your patients where they came in, let's say with this, which through all of the investigative work that you did, you were able to
Mhm.
determine. So that, for me, when I
Okay.
even just said about the anemia and the self-love, it's
Mhm.
like, oh wow, this seems like two opposites, like sides of the spectrum. But when people are
Mhm.
coming, so maybe you could give us some examples where it would be like, wow, that's so interesting that you were able to uncover that this as the cause when they came in with this as the
Oh,
symptom.
okay, so I see a variety of patients, young, old, and indifferent. I'm getting a lot of those who've been diagnosed with autism. Those, of
Mm,
course, with the alopecia, those who have different type of stomach issues, and it's very interesting. Those even with migraines, and it's very simple in terms of the language of the body identify what's happening, and everything is connected. So, for example, patient who came in, they had migraine has subsided. Then the next thing they have had is now a stomach disorder, and then that subsides. And the next thing that particular patient had, she had a severe vaginal yeast infection. Here's the connection: it's one bacteria that transfers from point A to point B. So when she came to me, understanding the mineral analysis, we could see that the body suppresses bacteria. So from
mm,
that, that's the causation. That's the causation. And once we got to the causation, she no longer has the zigzagging from head to toe.
mm,
We got rid of the cause of the bacteria. And as a result of that, there was curative. We had another young mother. She came in with her child. He's diagnosed with autism. And okay, that's the diagnosis. I'm not a medical doctor, so clearly we don't diagnose. But when we did the mineral analysis, really what was manifesting in the young boy that manifests or is associated with the symptomology known as autism, he had a lot of bacteria or a lot of toxins, aluminum, mercury, cadmium. These impairs your behavior. That is
mm,
associated with autism. So we basically, when we understood that, we clean it up, clean up everything. I like to call it in the area of homeopath. There is a study called the vital force. So the simplest way to describe this: picture a plunger. It goes in and the plunger unplugs and it creates a turbidity, meaning a wave, a ripple effect. So what the body doesn't need is going to get rid of it. And that's really what we did. What the body was holding on to because it doesn't understand how to break it down, which were the toxins, we got rid of it. So based on that particular process, over maybe around 6 months period, she now has a son that can actually speak and comprehend, because what was blocking was the body holding on to the toxins with a variety of things that he was exposed to that was transferred through the mother. As I said, there was another lady. This one is a nurse, and long hours she holds her urine in because, of course, a nurse takes care of everyone.
mm,
And
mm,
that, of course, created a lot of bacteria and a lot of buildup. She came in because she had severe backaches. And really, what was happening was backflow of bacteria because she's holding in what the body is naturally designed to release. Another gentleman came in, he had severe foot fungus. And
mm,
we did the test again, the mineral analysis. And again, he just had bacteria that was stored up. Here is one of the commonalities of bacteria that stores in the system. If you've ever taken an aspirin, gone for surgery, antibiotics, those are some of the causes that suppresses the immune system. And once the immune system is plugged, and you keep plugging it and keep plugging it. The thought of hope is a plug. The food that suppresses the immune system is a plug. Plus, whatever medication you may be on is a plug. All of these layers is a super plug. So it suppresses the system. And out of that, like you yourself, if you're compressed, you won't breathe. You won't, your
mm,
skin cells won't develop or mitose. And as a result of that, they die. And out of that, you go back to the doctor, they diagnose you, said, okay, you have a period of time to live or something of some sort of that sort. So those are some of the common symptoms that symptomologies that come in the clinic. And we basically create the blueprint, whether it was your alopecia. So we need to find the root cause because the body naturally heals itself. When it
mhm,
stopped doing that, you're at a place of deceased. But if it's suppressed by something, through the mineral analysis, which is one of the key things that we do at the clinic, we're looking for the causation, along with talk therapy, of course, and so on. Because, like I said, there are many imponderables around us that we're not aware of. Affair of the heart. A lot of persons, you know, um, broken heart. For example, we have Valentine's, or the time that it's said that you should be loving on someone. Love yourself first.
Mhm.
Normally, when you get to a place where everything is commercialized, that you should and you should, the imponderable is that false hope comes in, and it wears and tears the integral system. And out of that, the symptomologies manifest. You know what those are called? Depression, oppression, and then
Mhm.
perhaps the regrets of lack of hope and so on. So when we
Yes.
speak, how the word hits us, that's an example of the imponderable. It changes, but you don't see how it changes, right? So all of those things, we just really have to be mindful. And I guess when patients come in at the end of the day, I said, listen, you got to just know yourself enough to love what it is. The things you have no control over, put it aside. The things that you can control, that's where you put your energy, and all the pieces will come together.
Mhm. Now, Nadine, why do you think that we are, if all parts of ourselves are communicating with us, why do you think that we don't tune into it and we let it go and we let it go and we just put it under the rug, and we're really busy, and people don't take the time for the self-care that they need to, and they
Mhm.
have to have their back pushed against the wall before they go and seek help? Why do we let it get to that point?
I want to say society, I want to say how you were raised. I really think that's an individual answer, because symptoms, our body is always showing symptoms. If you're
Mhm.
a person, you're losing hair, and at the end of every hair strand, there's a little white bulb. It simply means the body's in crisis. But most people don't look at that. What they do
Mhm.
now, I see people go and get extensions, they go and get wigs, and all these enhancement of ties and so on. This is, oh, we'll cover it up and leave it alone. You talk about putting it under the
Mhm.
rug, and then they keep going and they keep. So it's almost like the the concept of life is very similar to being mechanical. Your routine to go by any means necessary to get there to produce on time the quota that you need to produce. So I think it's more of an individual thing. But for me, what I've noticed why people somewhat don't own into their on their own symptomology is some people are just not ready to the place of getting
Mhm.
to being vulnerable, getting to the place of, should I really
Mhm.
commit myself to just this little dot? Or should I look at the whole picture?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, it's almost as if the issue has to bother you enough in order for you to
Enough.
make changes, right? That it's okay for
Exactly.
us to not commit to saying, "Oh, I'm going to make changes so that I'm not going
Mhm,
to have these IBS symptoms or menstrual
mhm.
symptoms or whatever, that where we can manage it, we can cope with
Right.
them." Really, we're not
Mhm,
supposed to be doing that. That if we really are honing into the that I look at my body now as a temple, and it's a
mhm.
temple that brings my soul around to complete the learning, growing, and expanding that I came down here to do. So if my
That's
body's a
right.
temple, I need to treat it like that. And
That's
I
right.
loved also what you said, because it's my belief too, is that our body is so miraculous that we really don't even understand how
Mhm.
amazing it is, because there are so many processes and functions that are all happening simultaneously in our body
Mhm.
at once, that it's even too big for our comprehension. And that for
Right.
me really requires so much reverence, that if we really loved ourselves enough, we wouldn't get
That's
to the
right.
point that then we're seeing the symptoms that you're saying, that we would, when we started maybe to see a bit of misalignment, we would tap into it and start making the changes that we need to. Now, just the other,
Mhm,
to flip this on the reverse, is that it's also I would love for you to talk to that when we're seeing physical symptoms, how that part of ourself then affects the mental, emotional, and spiritual part, right? That if now we're feeling physically ill or disabled in different ways, that we're now not able to participate in activities that we like, right, that make us happy, that we can't go out with friends, we can't golf, we can't swim, we can't build, we can't ski, we can't do a lot of these things, because now that affects then the other aspects of ourselves, and it affects our life in so many different ways. So it's not only that it affects the physical, but then it's affecting the other parts too. So if you could just maybe speak to that as well.
That's such an interesting point, especially in this pandemic time. Human connection is the most important thing that we can offer to ourselves. It's healing. And at the end of the day, when we get to the place of seeing that, for example, if you were a particular size and you're now at the place where you're not happy, the brain records everything. And if you are at a place of disbelief, consider that the brain or the body is recording that as you're in a place of trauma. To get out of the trauma, for example, body issue, you got to get up, you got to move, you got to make the right decision. And when you do affirmation of, I'm worth it, I'm looking good, you buy what complements, my mother always says this, buy the clothes that complements your body, dress for the type of body you have. Hence, do not let other images influence your path, your drive to getting on the path of complete health, unless it's supporters. Because when you look at some of the images that are out there, you obviously don't fit in that box. No one, two person like a fingerprint, fits in the same box. So again, it's just getting to the place of loving yourself. As the changes go by, you affirm yourself. And when you get to the place that you want to be, again, that affirmation, you just keep doing it. You keep feeding yourself with it.
That's right. And then it keeps us on track. That's why those other
Yes.
components are so important. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Nadine, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show today. And if people want
Okay.
to connect with you and get in touch with you with the amazing work that you're doing, how can they do that?
Oh, simply reach out to me at alabasterwellness.com, or I love a phone call, 905-831-4325. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Thank you
on the
very much.
show and sharing the importance of making time to care for all aspects of ourselves.
Thank you. It's important. Thank you for this opportunity again.
Stay tuned, as after the break, I'll be speaking with a chiropractor who has lots to share. I'll see you after the break.
Six years ago, when I started Solivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit solivity.com now. You can find all the Satonic products at our Go shop on Solivity at go.solivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Solivity.
Thank you for tuning in to Beauty and Gratitude with D'Angelo Thompson. That's me. We're going to focus on beauty from the inside out and gratitude being the cornerstone of your life. I will have amazing guests from all walks of life. From wellness experts to beauty, tech, fashion, you name it, they will be here. And we have amazing names coming up in the near future. So tune in every 2 weeks, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Solivity TV or Solivity Magazine. Thank each of you for watching, and focus on life, focus on gratitude. Thank you.
Solivity Magazine and Beyond Words Publishing want to remind you about the importance of continuing to follow public health guidelines to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Please continue to wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Please visit these sites for further information about how to stay safe from COVID-19 into the new year. Remember, love protects us.
We work so hard sometimes. Isn't it time for a break? Take a walk or enjoy nature, or maybe a leap or a ride, or even a dip. Spending time with a friend, or some time alone. Whatever it is, always spend time growing and learning with a Solivity Weekend. Every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on Solivity TV.
Welcome back to the Steps to Happiness show. I'm excited to introduce my next guest, Dr. Angela Piccarelli, a chiropractor of over 20 years, who will be speaking with us about the importance of self-care on our overall well-being. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here to hopefully share some knowledge with you and help some of your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much. Now, there's so much that I wanted to discuss with you today, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So if we could maybe start off by discussing how coming in to see a chiropractor is a form of self-care for us, that when we're loving ourselves, we want to care for our physical body. And why in your opinion, is it important for us to take time to nurture our physical self?
Yeah, that's a great question. And definitely over these last few years, chiropractors, thankfully, we've always been deemed essential. So we've been open and been able to take care of our patients because they've needed it. And the actual, sort of concept of chiropractic is a little bit not well understood. And so chiropractors, what we really do is take a look at mostly the spine, but we do actually even do full body. We take care of knees, joints, hips, ankles, wrists. But we are mainly responsible for keeping the spine in proper alignment. So that causes increased balance in the body. It helps correct the muscles so that one side of the body is functioning more properly if one is not working, and we turn the other one on. And it also really helps the nervous system. And so we know the nervous system with our emotions is very much a connection. So if we can keep our full body healthy, we just are able to tackle better issues, right? And so as far as self-care, it's just an added element that you're adding to your body to make yourself healthy. So then you can go and do some of your activities that you love to do, or spending time with your family. When you're in pain, you can't take care of other people, right? And so it really just allows you to function better. And so it is definitely a form of self-care.
Mhm. And I talk a lot about having our happiness toolkit and tools in there that we know help to realign us and to tap into the happiness within us. And, everybody has the different tools, and chiropractic is one of the tools that I have as well, that when I feel like I am not in alignment and I feel that, and that my body is communicating to me in different ways, that all aspects, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves, are always communicating to us. So it's important for us to understand what that communication is and to take it seriously, right? Not just to, slough it off and say, oh, it's okay, it'll be better tomorrow or whatnot. That, do you find that often issues, they don't just go away, that they actually compound and then get worse?
Yeah, and so I definitely find that, I find especially too as my, I've been a chiropractor for 20 years. So my maintenance patients that I have, they come, regularly once a week, once every 2 weeks. So they're aging just as I am aging. And so, injuries that they've had in the past maybe take longer to get better because they're compounded and they're not really taking care of themselves fully. And so the more stress or trauma on your body, the longer it takes to get better and to feel better. And I always say, like, I wish our bodies had, a red light or amber light like our car did to tell us whether, there's some sort of background issue going on and like flaring and saying, go get this taken care of because it's going to get worse and your body is going to break down. But we have that. I mean, we have some kind of warning signs that the more you sort of pay attention to your body and are used to taking care of yourself, you then notice things. So sometimes it's, a little bit of a muscle spasming, or sometimes it's a little bit of tingling in your pinky, or a headache that comes and then goes away, right? And so lots of times, like you said, you're just like, oh, forget it, it's going to go away, I'll be fine. If you pay attention to those warning signs and do come in and get treatment. And it's not only about chiropractic, right? We're talking about all of self-care, massage, acupuncture, physio, all of these different aspects of taking care of yourself will really prevent things in the long run.
I agree. Now, just because, we're still in the middle of this pandemic, unfortunately, and I'm just wondering if you've noticed that people are suffering maybe from particular issues that happen to be showing up in our bodies that maybe you didn't see so much before.
Yeah, so I mean, stress level for sure has been at an all-time high, and these stresses, which people don't always consider, there's three types of stress: the physical stress, the chemical stress, and the emotional stress. And I think over these last 2 years, all of these have been high. So, and initially in the pandemic, it was mostly the work from home situation that, everyone was just, sitting from home in an improper desk, an improper chair, and then they were getting lots of chronic strain, and then the chemical stress sort of crept in with maybe drinking a lot of alcohol, or being on a sugar or chip binge, right? So these chemical and physical, and a lot of the emotional, people missing their families, lots of fear, and lots of anger. And actually I had a wonderful patient. She was suffering with a frozen shoulder, and she'd been getting treatment for a while, and nothing was really helping. So she came in to get care with me. And so, I was doing range of motion on her shoulder. And so I actually had her on her back. And my intention was to just stretch her pec. Okay. So I had her laying on her back and just pulling. I had just put my hand right here, close to her heart on her chest. And I said to her, okay, just relax, deep breath, and let go, I said to her. And for me, it was just, let go, relax your shoulder. But for her, it was like that emotional kind of tidal wave of letting her let go of everything that she was feeling. And her shoulder just it just fell. Now it tightened up again later, but having her make that connection, that the way she was feeling emotionally, and perhaps it's sort of like the image of, carrying bags, right? Like you're carrying weights, carrying, or um maybe like being trapped and not able to, get yourself out, right? So all of these types of emotions, and I'm seeing a lot of shoulder pain in the last year. lot of frozen shoulders. So that sort of bringing her awareness to that emotional connection to the shoulder. And then now she, we all have work to do, right? It's a constant work that allowing her emotions to go and maybe confronting some of these issues she's feeling. So it's
Now,
really amazing.
Thank you so much for that example, because it does tie into the next question I want to ask you, that often when when the other aspects of ourselves are not in alignment, so when our mental, emotional, and spiritual self, for example, might be off, that then we start to see that dis-ease in the body. So it's interesting with the story that you shared, that on a mental and emotional level, that those areas are out of alignment and are suffering from stress and probably like loss of clarity and maybe not sleeping well because of the fear and anxiety and all of those other things, and how that is absolutely showing up. And it makes sense that even like symptomatically for it to be a frozen shoulder, it's like, how is she frozen in other aspects of her life, right? That the letting go, as you said, is that she is frozen within herself, frozen within her life. And so oftentimes, so Louise Hay was really one of those pioneers that studied the emotions and showed how it showed up in the physical body. So all of our emotions are tied to some kind of dis-ease in the body. So if we can't figure out, maybe on a physical level, with why something is reoccurring. So yesterday, for example, I spoke to someone. She said every month she has a respiratory illness. She's like, I am so scared to go outside because I'm scared that I'm going to get bronchitis again. I'm going to get pneumonia again. I'm going to get a chest infection again. That every month she said she's been sick. And I said, and I looked at her, I said, no, there's a spirit, there's an emotional underpinning that's happening here, that it's presenting itself as a respiratory infection or an illness every single month. So of course I went to my Louise Hay book and looked into it, and basically it was a fear of her living fully. And so it keeps showing her that she's not living fully. Every month, you're not living fully. And really, she wasn't, because she's like scared to go outside because she doesn't want to get sick. But this fear is actually causing her to be sick and actually reinforcing her belief that if she goes outside, that, oh, I can't, live the life that I really want to live because I'm scared that I'm going to keep getting sick. And so, of course, your reality is just presenting the facts to you, saying, oh, is that what you believe? Well, here it is again. Here it is again. And I'm like, I don't even think maybe you're even getting sick, because with another guest, we're talking about the idea that sometimes we get sick because we actually have to clear stuff, right? That coming to get an adjustment could be a clearing on other levels as well. I don't know if you've ever noticed that you've adjusted on something and then all of a sudden there's been a release in other ways.
What you said, so many things that I wanted to talk about. So that with your friend about yesterday, it does, it puts you in this like downward spiral of what you said. I'm afraid to go out because I'm going to get sick, so I'm not going to go out, and then it just keeps going, right? So someone like that, you really want to just focus on getting them to sort of switch that whole mindset and be like, okay, I'm, positive reinforcement. I'm healthy. I'm strong. It's beautiful outside. I'm going to take a couple steps. And then the interesting thing too is that it can also go in the opposite. So, I had a patient who I've been seeing for years, and normally he, in the last like couple years, he was going through a divorce and his shoulders were always really tight, and so I would work on him. And he came in one day, and honestly, like, I have people that I've been seeing for 15 years, so they're all like my family now, my patients. So I put my hands on his shoulders and I said, what happened? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, you feel so good, so relaxed, so like just like his energy was amazing. So he's like, nothing happened. I said, okay. I go, I don't know what's happening. So He laid down, and then it's so funny because as soon as patients go face down, it's like now they can tell the truth. It's like laying in the psychiatrist's chair. He looks back, he goes up, and he's like, "Okay, Angela, I have to tell you something." I'm like, "I knew it. What? What happened?" And he said he is in love. He had fallen in love. And like that, so same thing, like a negative emotion of fear and anger can make you tense and stiff. A feeling of happiness and joy and love can do this reverse effect on the body. So that's like definitely one of my main missions that I try to spread to my patients is let's turn all of that fear into gratitude and love and joy, and you will feel it in your body. I can't remember the second part of your question.
No, I think no, that was a good example that
Yeah.
explains how when we're in alignment in the other aspects, how then it
Yes.
translates to us being more in alignment physically. And so then that ties into my next question is that how does being in physical dis-ease then affect our quality of life and how and the life that we're living and how happy we can be in our lives when we're in physical dis-ease?
I mean, it's just an imbalance that you're getting in your body. So how are you performing at your best if you're not feeling your best? And you may be feeling emotionally strong, but then physically, you're not doing well or all over the place. So everything really has to be all in alignment. And like you said, the uneasiness or dis-ease of your body really needs to be corrected, and it's work. It's not something that gets fixed overnight. Like, you know um everything is work. Our mental or physical emotional states is always work. So it's not like you can say, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm solid, I'm done. No, that's never the case. Right.
No.
So it's
No, life
lots of work.
happens. Yeah, and it's constantly bringing us away from who we really are, right? So we can take the steps that we need, that we always have to take the steps that we need to constantly bring us back. But really, our physical self is that part of us that is always speaking to us and letting us know when something is off. And I know, like today, I'm feeling this is me again. It's like tight here and heavy here, and that often happens when I have too much on the go. When my schedule becomes too packed, I have too many responsibilities. I've overcommitted myself, and then this starts to happen. My neck gets bad, and my shoulders. It's like you're carrying the weight of the world on
Wait,
here, and that yes, and yeah, and I'm really feeling it today. Or those times that I'm feeling like I don't have the clarity. I'm feeling like I don't know, a bit like foggy, and I can't make decisions. It's like these are all. It's amazing because it then tells me, okay, now I need to go into my happiness toolkit and do the things that I know help me. So then
right,
I'm going to book my massage or my chiropractor,
right,
or I'm going to make sure I get to bed a little bit earlier, or I'm not going to have any alcohol because I don't want anything to contribute to me getting a headache or more fog in the head. So it's like I'm going to try to like remove sugar. Like there's all these things that
right.
that your physical self is saying, hey, you're out of balance here. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to you. This is the important. I'm going to listen to you instead of saying, no, no, and I'm not going to deal with it.
So I really like to use the analogy of our physical bodies being like a battery. Okay, so we want our battery charge to be at 100% constantly. And when stresses come on, let's say your boss is yelling at you or you don't have a good sleep, all of these lower that energy within your body, right? So if you become aware of what these stresses are, and some of them you can't avoid. You can't quit your job, you can't get rid of your kids, you can't, right? You can't get rid of the slow driver in front of you. But if you can then keep yourself healthy so that, let's say, those other stresses bring your power down, but you then get your adjustments, you keep your physical body strong, it balances some of that, right? So it's always like taking care of the elements that you can. And I say this all the time with my patients, like if we can get your spine aligned, if we can get your hamstring stretched, your traps stretched, um, then you can handle some of those other issues because your body isn't overloaded to a max. Um, and I mean, I struggle, like, I have a list in the morning of things that, I just did this a couple weeks, a list of what I want to do for my morning routine and what I need to do. And I had, what I want. I want to journal, I want to sun, I want to exercise, I'm going to drink water, I'm going to meditate. And then I was like, I'm like stressed by looking at this list. So, and I said, who's telling me to do this stuff, right? Like, no. So I
Yes,
said,
it's
this is what everyone
brilliant.
is telling you to do. And I said, no, I'm going to exercise on Monday, right? It was stressing me out what was supposed to
Yeah.
be helping me. So I said, okay, I'm going to exercise Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll meditate at night. I tried to, sort of break it down. Um, and then, the things you need to do never go away. So, but,
Yes, yes.
it's really a lot of this, Teresa, is evaluating yourself and becoming aware. And even as far as your posture, right? Like, are you sitting like slouched this way during the day? How can you breathe by sitting this way? So, right, really pulling the shoulders back, opening the chest, stretching your neck, and the power of breath. I constantly, my kids say, Mama, what's wrong with you? I breathe all the time. Like, just try to take deep breaths. It is so nourishing and soothing for the soul. And it resets. It resets your emotions. It resets your hormones. It gets your cortisol levels to drop. So you're not constantly in that state of stress. So,
Yes, all
love
good
it.
points. Yeah, thank you so much. Now, just my last question is how is it important? Like how is taking care of our spirit, our physical self tie into our happiness, do you think?
This is great. And I have the best example of this. So, 80-year-old man. This was actually last summer. He hurt his low back, and he was a big time golfer. He wanted to be on the golf course like every day. And so, because of his lower back pain, he couldn't golf, and he was miserable because he couldn't get out and golf. So, as soon as we took care of his low back pain, he was back out there, and he was a different person when his back pain went away because he was out there enjoying what he wanted to do. So there's a direct link with being able to take care of your own body and being comfortable in your own body and then causing that whole cycle of being happy. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very much related. And the exploration of this has become, I think, more important in the last couple years, and I think a lot more research is being done on this. And so I think it's a fantastic way because lots of times, you think it is a structural issue in the body, and then it's not. It's something that's in the head. So, what it mental.
Yes, yes. And I think that example also speaks to the importance of how taking care of our physical self allows us then to participate in activities that help us to feel the happiness that's within us. That then it helps us to like improve our emotional state because now we're able to participate or show up in our life in whatever capacity that is, being the best mom and doing what you have to do for that, or the daughter that you have to be for your parents, or whoever that is that when we can do that in like say top form or in alignment, then we can show up in the other aspects, and in the other aspects then provide that happiness and that joy and that peace or whatever that they happen to do for us. So yeah, thank you. That example was great. Now, Angela,
Very good.
people would love to connect with you after the show because I know you're quite active on social media, and you have newsletters that you put out about, lots of things, kind of tied into our discussion. And so how can
Yeah.
people do that? How can they learn more about you and your offering?
So probably the best way is on Instagram. I'm Dr. Piccarelli. And then also I'm on Facebook. At my clinic name is Markham Town Square Health Center. So on Facebook, it's Markham Town Square Chiropractic, and we are in Markham. But I'm always free for video consults or messaging me, sending me questions. I'm definitely available. I mean, and the reason why I became so active on social media now was because not everyone could come into the office, and so my social media is really a way to try to educate and teach, so that if you are having elbow pain, I give tips on what to do with your elbow pain and stretches, foam rolling,
Mhm.
things like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think you did some videos around even just, working at your desk and proper positioning and alignment and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
Working from home things.
Yes,
Yeah,
an
awesome.
ergonomic setup. Yes.
Yes, amazing.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you again
much.
for being on the show today and sharing with us the importance of taking care of our physical selves.
Thank you for having me, and keep doing this amazing job, Teresa. I love this whole idea. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to leave you with the thought for the day. We live in a fast-paced, demanding world where daily responsibilities and stress appear to be increasing all the time. There's an underlying assumption that we must always be productive in a society where individuals are expected to work long hours and forgo vacation days, which leaves less time for self-care. Although making self-care is a priority and sounds like common sense, it's often the last thing that we find ourselves making time to do when things get challenging. Maybe it's because of bad health, a financial crisis, job loss, caring for elderly patients, attending school, or the current pandemic. However, it is exactly in times like these that we must keep self-care top of mind if we are to balance life's responsibilities and maintain health. By taking time to participate in health self-care, we can reduce the pressures of everyday life and reset ourselves to a healthy state where productivity can be restored. Clinical studies show that practicing self-care reduces or eliminates anxiety and depression, improves focus, reduces irritation and anger, increases happiness, improves energy, and more. Ultimately, when we love, honor, and respect our bodies, the temple to our soul is being able to live each day in alignment with the wholeness and fullness of who we really are. Thank you for joining me today on the Steps to Happiness show, and I look forward to being with you again next week.
To connect with Teresa Greco after the show for coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements, you can visit her website at teresagreco.ca or by email at stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com or follow her on Instagram at TeresaGreco_Steps to Happiness or on Facebook at Steps to True Happiness with Teresa Greco.